Dear friends, there is a particular kind of sadness that does not announce itself with tears or arguments. It arrives quietly, the way a season changes, slowly, almost without your noticing, until one morning you look outside and realize the warmth is gone. Perhaps you have felt it. Your child calls less often than they used to. When they do visit, the conversation stays on the surface, the weather, the grandchildren, what is on television. They are polite, they are dutiful, but something has withdrawn. Some warmth that used to be there, some ease, some genuine desire to be near you, it has grown thin. No door was ever slammed, no cruel words were ever spoken, and yet a distance has formed, and you do not quite know how it got there. If you have felt this, I want you to know you are not alone, and more importantly, you are not without hope. I am Venerable Mahinda Siri Thero, and I welcome you to Lotus Dharma Path. Tonight I want to offer you not comfort, but clarity. The Buddha did not teach us to feel better by looking away from difficult truths. He taught us to look clearly, with compassion, with steadiness, and without self-condemnation. What I offer this evening is a mirror, not a verdict. In the ancient text known as the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha spoke at length about the sacred relationship between parent and child. He spoke of what children owe their parents, but he also spoke, plainly, without softening, of what parents owe their children, of the conduct that earns reverence, and of the conduct that slowly and silently erodes it. Tonight we will look at 6 of those behaviors, 6 things that, without intending to, we may be doing right now, things that cause our children to pull back, not in anger, but in quiet self-preservation. This talk is for those of us who love our children and want that love to be felt. In the Pali language, the ancient language of the Buddha's teachings, there is a word, garava. It is often translated as reverence or deep respect. And in the texts, the Buddha describes garava not as something demanded, but as something that arises naturally, like water flowing downhill, when a person lives with integrity, with gentleness, with genuine wisdom. The Buddha never said, honor your parents simply because they gave you life. He said something far more interesting. He said that parents earn the deepest reverence by being worthy of it, by the quality of their conduct, by the care they offer, by the way they hold their authority. This is a liberating teaching, my friends, because it means that no matter how many years have passed, no matter what has accumulated between you and your child, the karma of what you do today shapes the relationship of tomorrow. You are not trapped. You are not too old. You are not too late. Let us begin. The first behavior is perhaps the most common and the hardest to recognize in ourselves because it so closely resembles love. Think of a woman I will call Margaret. She is 68 years old, warm-hearted, devoted to her family. When her daughter and son-in-law visit for Thanksgiving, Margaret notices that the grandchildren are eating too much sugar. She mentions it. Gently, she thinks. She also notices the house is a bit cluttered. She offers to help organize. She wonders aloud whether her son-in-law might want to look at some job listings she found online. She suggests a different route home to avoid traffic. Each comment, taken alone, seems harmless, even thoughtful. But by Sunday evening, her daughter has grown quiet. By Monday, she has not called. And by the following weekend, she has found a reason why the next visit will need to be shorter. Margaret cannot understand it. I only want what is best for them, she says. And she means it. Truly, she does. But here is what the Dhamma reveals. There is a mental quality called papancha, the proliferating mind that cannot rest in what is, but must always improve, correct, and manage. It is the mind that looks at a loved one and sees not a person, but a project. And when our children begin to feel like our projects rather than our people, they leave. In the Buddha's teaching on harmonious speech, he speaks of peyavajja, words that are offered to bind, not to wound, words that say, I see you, I trust you, you are enough. Before your next visit with your child, I invite you to sit quietly and ask yourself one question. Am I going there to offer something or to correct something? The answer will tell you everything. The second behavior is one that lives in a sentence many of us have spoken or heard spoken, perhaps more times than we can count. After everything I did for you. 6 words, and yet those 6 words have ended more relationships than almost any argument I can name. There is a man I will call Robert. He is 71 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio. He put his son through college. He worked overtime for years. He missed vacations, delayed his retirement, sacrificed in ways both visible and invisible. And all of this is true. All of this was real. But Robert keeps a ledger, and at every family gathering, at every disagreement, at every moment his son makes a choice Robert does not approve of, the ledger comes out. Not explicitly, but the children feel it, the weight of it. Robert cannot understand why his son seems exhausted after their visits rather than grateful. My friends, the Buddha spoke clearly about the nature of generosity, dana. True giving, he taught, is offered and released. The gift belongs to the receiver the moment it leaves your hands. When we hold on to what we gave, when we use past sacrifice as a present claim, we transform what was once love into debt, and no one wants to spend time with their creditor. There is a Pali word, upadana. It means clinging, grasping. We understand it when applied to things, to money, to status, to comfort. But we can also cling to our own sacrifices, to the story of how much we gave. And this clinging, the Buddha teaches, causes suffering, not only for us, but for every person who loves us and yet cannot feel free around us. The question worth sitting with is this: did I give freely or did I give in order to be owed? There is no judgment in that question, only an invitation to look clearly. The third behavior is one I see so often, and it springs from the deepest tenderness, which makes it all the more difficult to release. Some of us never updated the picture in our minds. Our children are in their 40s, their 50s. They have careers, marriages, children of their own, decades of lived experience. And yet, in our hearts, we still carry an image of them at 17, still figuring things out, still needing us to steer. Consider Carol. Her daughter is a physician. She has delivered hundreds of babies. She has navigated medical school, residency, a divorce, single parenthood, and built a life of remarkable substance. And yet, when the phone rings on Sunday morning, Carol's first words are, "Sweetheart, I'm just a little worried about you." What follows is advice on diet, on finances, on how to talk to her ex-husband, on topics Carol's daughter mastered 20 years ago. The daughter does not argue. She has stopped arguing. She simply shortens the call. In the Pali teachings, there is a term, miccha ditthi, wrong view, seeing reality not as it is, but as we wish it to be, or as it once was. When we cling to the role of wise parent long past the moment when wisdom requires stepping back, we are practicing miccha ditthi. We are relating not to the person in front of us, but to a memory. Our children are not who they were, neither are we. The relationship that honors this truth, that can see the grown person clearly with fresh eyes, is the relationship that flourishes. The next time you speak with your child, try this. Ask a question about their life that you genuinely do not know the answer to. And then listen, not to respond, not to advise, simply to know them a little better. The fourth behavior is, in my observation, the most corrosive of all and the least often recognized because it feels in the moment like intimacy. You are close with your eldest son, and so when you are worried about your daughter's marriage, you mention it to him. When your youngest seems to be struggling financially, you share your concerns with your older daughter. You are not gossiping, you tell yourself. You are a mother. You are a father. You are simply talking about your family with your family. But here is what happens. Your children begin to realize that nothing shared with you stays with you, that their confidences, their struggles, their fears, their private failures become currency, passed from sibling to sibling, filtered through your interpretation, colored by your concern. And so they stop confiding. And then they stop calling as often. And then the silence grows, and you cannot understand why. The Buddha named Pisunavacha, divisive speech, as one of the 10 unwholesome actions. It is not only gossip in the coarse sense. It is any speech that by carrying information from one person to another plants seeds of distrust, tension, or division. When we carry our children's private lives to one another, even with the best intentions, we become not a safe harbor but a source of exposure. And people do not open their hearts to places that feel unsafe. The practice here is simple, though not easy. What is shared with you in confidence must remain with you. This is the foundation of a trustworthy relationship, and it is never too late to become someone your children can trust again. The fifth behavior takes two forms, and both of them, without our realizing it, can slowly exhaust the people who love us most. The first form, the parent who collapses every time a child asserts independence. Your daughter moves to another city for work. You say, "I suppose I don't matter anymore." Your son decides to spend Thanksgiving with his in-laws this year. You grow quiet and distant for days. Your child cancels a visit because one of the grandchildren is sick. You call 3 times that evening, and each call ends with the same phrase, "I just don't know what I would do without you." These responses are not manipulation, not consciously. They are expressions of real pain, but your child receives them as a bill. Every time they make a normal, healthy choice, they are punished with your suffering. And so they learn, honesty costs too much. They begin to manage you instead of loving you. The second form, using your child as your primary emotional support, calling daily in distress, treating them as your therapist, your confidant, your reason for getting out of bed, placing the weight of your well-being on their shoulders. My friends, this is where the Dhamma offers us one of its most quietly radical teachings. The quality called upekkha, equanimity, is not indifference. It is not coldness. It is the practice of holding our own peace, of building an inner life stable enough that we do not require another person's constant presence to feel secure. When we develop upekkha, we give our children the greatest gift a parent can offer, the freedom to live their own lives without guilt, to call us out of love, not obligation, to visit because they are drawn to us, not because they are worried about us. Our children are not our therapists. They are not our rescuers. They are our children, and they deserve the room to be exactly that. The sixth behavior is the one many in our generation were never taught to practice. In fact, many of us were taught precisely the opposite. To apologize to a child to say I was wrong can feel like a collapse of authority, like an admission that you did not know what you were doing all those years, like a loss of the dignity that the word parent is supposed to carry. And so instead, we say, I did the best I could. And sometimes this is true. Usually it is true, but offered as a shield rather than a reflection. Offered to close a conversation rather than open one, it becomes one of the most isolating phrases a parent can speak. Because what our adult children are often holding is not rage. It is not even resentment in most cases. It is simply an old question, sitting unanswered in a quiet corner of the heart. Did you know what that did to me? Do you see it now? And the silence that answers that question, year after year, is its own kind of wound. I think of a daughter I will call Susan. She's 54 years old. She carries something from her childhood. Not hatred, not bitterness, just an old ache she has learned to live around. Her father is 78. They have a civil relationship. Dinners at Christmas, birthday cards. They are not estranged, but they are not close. And then, one afternoon, her father calls. And he says something she has never heard from him in all her 54 years. Susan, I've been thinking about something that happened when you were young. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't understand what I was asking of you. She told me later she didn't know what to say. She cried, not from sadness, but from something releasing. Something that had been held for decades, finally allowed to rest. The Buddha praised those who, having done wrong, acknowledged it clearly and resolved not to repeat it. He called this the conduct of the wise, not weakness, wisdom. The Pali term is Samma Sankappa, right intention. It requires the courage to turn toward what we have caused, to name it, to offer the acknowledgement our child has perhaps been waiting a lifetime to receive. It does not require a formal confession. It does not require reopening old wounds. Sometimes it is as simple as, I've been thinking about how I handled things when you were growing up. I know I wasn't always what you needed. I'm sorry for that. Those words can open a door that has been closed for years. My friends, the Dhamma is not a teaching of regret. It does not ask you to sit with guilt until you are buried beneath it. The Buddha's most practical and most beautiful message is simply this: the present moment is always available for a new beginning. Whatever has accumulated, whatever has grown between you and your child, it is not permanent. Karma is not fate, it is action, and action can change. Let me offer you 3 gentle practices to begin with. The first, witness before you speak. Before your next visit. Before your next phone call. Sit for just a moment, 1 breath, 2 breaths, and ask yourself, in this conversation, am I about to offer something or take something? Am I bringing warmth, curiosity, presence? Or am I bringing a correction, a complaint, an old grievance? You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be awake. The second, offer presence, not performance. Your children do not need you to be wise. They do not need you to be consistent or accomplished or right. What they long for, and often cannot name, is simply for you to be there. Unhurried, genuinely curious about their lives. Able to listen without redirecting the conversation back to yourself. Ask them something you have never asked before. What do you love most about your work? What are you looking forward to this year? What has surprised you lately? And then listen, not to evaluate, simply to know them. The third, the small repair. You do not need a grand reckoning. You do not need a formal apology that reopens every old wound. You only need one honest sentence, offered at the right moment in a quiet voice. I've been thinking about something I said, and I want you to know I didn't mean it the way it came out. I'm sorry. The Dhamma does not ask for grand gestures, it asks for sincerity, and sincerity offered once can accomplish what years of effort have not. In the ancient tradition, elders were called Thera and Theri, the ripened ones. Not those who had accumulated the most authority, not those who had won the most arguments or endured the most hardship, but those who had become soft enough to receive others, steady, without demand, wide enough inside to hold the people they loved without squeezing. This is what the final chapters of life are for, my friends. Not nostalgia for the parent we once were, not the long management of grievances and regrets, but the practice of becoming something rare and beautiful, an elder who is a refuge. When you have done this work, even partially, even imperfectly, something shifts. Your home becomes a place your children enter and feel their shoulders drop. Your voice becomes one they seek out, not because they must, but because something in them is fed by it. The call comes not from duty, but from longing. And when the day comes, as it comes for all of us, when you are no longer here, your children will grieve you, not with relief and residual guilt, but with the deep, clean sorrow of someone who has lost a true presence, someone who gave what was asked, someone who, in the end, chose love over pride, sincerity over performance, presence over position. This is the life the Dhamma asks us to build. This is the legacy worth leaving. May you be well. May your families know peace. May the merit of your practice ripple outward to your children, to their children, to all those whose lives have been touched by yours. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.